It's like in spirit, it's one tall, black, Gumby-looking blob of an entity going in and out of smart meters in your home. The grid. All across America, it's like I can see it in spirit. The grid. A big picture, wide view of the dense population centers. And the microcosmic dots or entities going in and out and in. Smart meters. Thus, walls. Home after home after home connected to an entire grid, which is thus connected to another grid, the dark grid. And thus, they teach us to fear the grid going down. They teach us to fear the day when technology fails. Technology's done a lot of good. It has also, for the most part, been grossly misused and abused. So have many of these platforms. The very same platforms that are used to share knowledge and ideas that standing armies cannot hold down. Some of those ideas can be powerful in a good sense. Some of those ideas, on the other hand, can result in an entire race of humans or perception of race wiped off the face of the earth forever. And this is essentially what we are looking at between now and 2100. We are looking at an attempt to exterminate particular peoples and ethnicities on this planet while they create inversions and fake realities to convince people that aren't even victims that they're victims. And to see others that actually are victims as a threat to them and their culture. This society is fallen. Its consciousness, its empathy has never been lower, as far as I could see. There is no truth movement. There is no anti-war movement. And this is a message that you're not hearing from other speakers in the alternative media. The question is why? The question is why? The question is, how could the love of human ego prevent the truth from escaping their lips? They know the truth. Some of the provocateurs in the alternative media, whether they start out as provocateurs or not, they know what they're doing is wrong. With their divide and conquer blueprint, seeing the Trump dollars, seeing the Jesus dollars, getting behind that train. Come on, ride that train. But it's literally being led by a Pied Piper who's leading their flock straight to hell under the guise of being under the flag of Americana and Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't get much more deceptive than that. And that is literally what they breathe, eat, sleep, excrete. That is who these humans have become in today's grid. Under the influence of today's technology, today's YouTube, today's social media. Yes, the same thing that gives me a voice in the wilderness and powers that our ancestors did not have, or even those that came before us 30, 40, 50 years prior. There are few out there on the planet even doing what I'm doing. And we're in a society where a lot of people out there think they need to have big guns, period, to live off the grid, let alone have a YouTube channel speaking about things no one else is, while feeling like your DNA the very physical form in which the spirit inhabits. A world in which the physical form feels under attack. When I look at the world, and I see the events of this post 9/11 world, I know the bravery that I have sought within myself, that others that have remained silent have not. Some will notice that within me, others won't value it or give it credit where credit is due. And I've done my dues, and I've proven who I am over the years. And I've talked about the core issues, and I've talked about the need to get off the grid. Out of the grid itself is a very volatile human construct. When we look at the sun and the changes that it's more likely going to be bringing our world with a weakening Earth's magnetic field, we're looking at a reset situation. And see, it's not just a few things that I discuss on this channel that are scoffed at. It's also the research I've done into the sun, how the geomagnetic storms affect people's dream states. People walk over and beyond some of my most important research that I brought this channel. People want to hear what they want to hear. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, supporters and non-supporters, that is just not going to happen. Okay, the message is going to continue. We will not be wavering. We will not be diverting away from the core issues. And right now, the modern tribalism that you're seeing in off-grid communities and urban communities isn't just the result of our fallen world and biological code that some people lean towards. It's enhanced by high technology. It's enhanced by smartphone addiction, by social media addiction. And these people are denying in droves. If you look, and you look at where mass consciousness is, Americans are denying that there's been any tampering with their social media feeds. Many think it's fake news to talk about fake news. Unless, of course, they're the president and they're saying fake news, in the way someone would belch. Rendering the phrase or commentary about fake news useless. As if people have no memories of disclosures like COINTELPRO of the 1970s. Fake news of the old school. Now, they have Facebook. It already replaced human relationships. Now, the next level was for them to sabotage and destroy the online relationships. And all this is being done. That's why the grid's still up. That's why the internet is still up. It's because it is a weapon of war to turn us into these tribalistic mindsets before the next war. See, I understand there's some people that don't believe this is coming, that are listeners of my work, that may have been drawn to my work, perhaps some of the spiritual videos, and they want to maybe stay in a reality where those things aren't going to happen, or we're maybe going to evolve and ascend beyond the timeline. Perhaps there's no place like home. Click, click, click. Oh, we're almost there. Well, we're almost to the fifth dimension orgasm. Right with ya. Yeah, our frequency will just rise and we'll just start floating to the next astral level up. The reality is we're in a physical world. And the only way that I think that we're leaving this world is when our physical life has come to a completion. However that is dictated. But I believe that everything happens for a reason and that there's perfect purpose. And ultimately we're not victims in this reality. We're not victims. We may be harmed by others. We may be insulted by others. We may feel degraded by others. But we are experiencing those things because we are meant to become stronger. Now let's go back to this grid. And they teach people to fear the grid going down when the grid is actually enslaving them and producing a very unhealthy population that some argue is overpopulated. There's also value in so many souls or bodies physically on the earth that they are using as batteries, so to speak. But from the perspective of souls being here to grow, there's also purpose in billions being alive for what's happening now. They have the ability to grow exponentially by making the right decisions in some of these crises that they are, you could even say, destined to face. From massive earthquakes to flooding to invasion scenarios where men are literally running into situations where they have to take on 10 men to protect one woman. Like incredibly, like almost beyond superhuman, heroic situations like you've never seen at a Hollywood. All that and more is set, I believe, in the next decade for today's most populated U.S. cities. There's going to be a lot of people that are thrust into these vast evolutionary positions where they have the ability to help others and right what was wronged. If only those with the big money on this planet could have a shift of consciousness and find those of us that are trying to do the right thing instead of that energy going to corrupted sources. I do believe that while the grid is still up, that we should make a difference. I believe that this should not be the end of my road. Living here off the grid, full time, all the time. I think that this is a place of rest and reset. I think that I need to be rubbing elbows with other people that are reaching a lot of people on the planet. And we need to reach even more people before these things start to happen. People need to know that they have a choice. I think people need to know, this is my perspective, that what's coming is a test. Some people, right, are going to be offered opportunities to do harmful things to other human beings in the future. The way this future is going, evil rewards its demons. And it's a trap. Just like many other traps, or the illusion of eternal life and transhumanism. Meanwhile, back in reality, there are also other opportunities for the soul to grow by taking risks in order to help others. And people actually embarking on their own path in this life towards this greater awakening and a particular level of conscious evolution that many so-called fixed spiritual teachers haven't reached. And that is compassion for all living human beings. This is lost. This is lost, and my message will not be co-opted. I'm going to remind people that compassion for all living human beings is lost. Compassion for the millions of dead Afghans and Iraqis does not exist within this culture today. What little there was is now gone. What little exists is often used for political purposes, left versus right. Oh, caring about the refugees, right? How about the millions dead? Where were the people shedding a tear when Barack Obama was the president? So no one will be giving me a speech at all, at any time, or any place, that America, or Americans, or the Western world as a whole, has compassion for all living human beings. Nor a Bernie supporter, as Bernie himself supported the use of drones in the Middle East. That is not compassion for all living beings. This has been lost. Thus, this nation is falling. And there will be people in this nation begging the world to have compassion for it and its daughters. When the smoke clears, and even if there's anything left around, or any electronics that will still be in operation, there will only be one man on the internet that people will be able to remember as the person that actually talked about that particular scenario happening and how it was completely avoidable had we been a different society that wasn't creating so much negative karma for itself. I don't wish harm on this country. I wish the warnings of what could be were heeded and that people change their ways way in advance. I found myself exiled from society, and some of my deeper teachings ignored or mocked, whether it be about the sun or World War III. And my patience is growing thin, and time is not on our side. This is not entertainment, this channel, this program. This is not tap dancing. This is not performance art. This is reality. Who knows how you found this channel, when you found this channel, or what circumstances led to it. But it wasn't an accident. And you could be living right now in a part of America that will look completely different in 10 years' time. Okay, this is not clickbait. This is not tailored around getting you to buy crap. This is tailored around getting you to think and feel with another part of your senses. Because you too feel this is coming. That's why there's so many disaster films and zombie films. They want to warp. They want to warp our awakening into these black hole nowheres. We have these movies, we have Prometheus, we have others, and they might be entertaining, but many of them are just mimics or inversion of the truth. And we think, oh, it's just a movie. Oh, it's just fiction. It's not just fiction. It's not just a movie. Okay? It is manifesting in the collective. Just like when I lived in Portland, I saw this zombie art popping up in 2010, 2011. In these artists, some of it sick, twisted, some of it featuring demons raping each other in Portland hipster bars, freak stuff. And I'm like, I didn't know about the term archon yet, but I knew about spiritual parasites, and I could feel it. I could feel the influx of the fallen dark shamans, those that deal with spiritual energies but aren't working on the side of the creator, but the other. And I can feel it. They were channeling that zombie energy. And as I returned to Portland, 2014, after spending 9 months in Costia County, different magnetism, away from the grid, away from the smart meters, away from those entities. And then I returned. And I had a dream. I was sleeping in the Teardrop camper, parked just outside Forest Park, somewhere near the Nadeau Parkway area of the Northwest Industrial area of Portland, Oregon. And I saw in that dream what appeared to be an angry, almost ancient Indian spirit, all muscle bound, something like the Native American version of the Ultimate Warrior, screaming in pain, coming out of the grid, being stuck in the grid, in the actual wire system, telegraph wires, I believe, or something to that effect, the power lines. And it was like they were stuck in the grid, or the grid was using their energy, or they were within the electromagnetic bandwidth. But that spirit was tormented. I even think that I was almost remote viewing or seeing that dream. Two older women, perhaps like in a Hobbit reality, perhaps like in some sort of a Lord of the Rings scenario, discussing that. Or one older female shaman discussing this with another and pointing that reality with me looking over their shoulders of what they were describing or discussing to make it even more elaborate. Remember walking one night and maybe there was a geomagnetic storm. Plus you have the combination of rain as a conduit pouring down on that wet Portland night along MLK as I walked. And I felt that grid buzz and buzz. And that same part of a human, right? Senses that feels kind of maybe an uneasy spiritual feeling or sensation on our own energy fields. So it would be over time that these thoughts would progress and progress and progress with regards to the city and the grid being a conduit for particular spirits going in and out. And I woke up this morning thinking about this concept again, and even periods in which there could be increased activity, either caused by the sun, geomagnetic storms affecting the Earth's magnetic field, and an increase in those type of spirits interacting with the world as they use our power grid as a conduit. Okay, so there are implications for this, as well as on a deeper level, certain other things, what's going on a deeper level. And also how our grid itself and its power is used for purposes we know nothing about. They've even alluded to this in the TV series Stargate. Into the idea of the grid being used on a top secret level for underground military projects. And we only learned just recently, by the way, in the last year, I'll come back to that the government admits between 1958 and 1962 they were doing high atmospheric testing of our power grid and found themselves creating geomagnetic storms on the Earth. That can create psychotic episodes, psychiatric admissions, especially when it's not a natural magnetic field coming from the sun or cosmic rays, but when it's a unnatural magnetic field influence caused by military weaponry. The grid. The grid. The grid. The grid, ladies and gentlemen, is not all it's been cracked up to be or described to be. There's a reason they want us afraid of their Tower of Babel crumbling down.